can also find, you'll see it right here, right? So studying, this is an outline, this is a matrix, right? And so if you look at this, this is the outline, these are all the organisms you're responsible for. And here is the things you'll need to know, right? Common names, class, species, diagnostic characteristics, clinical significance, the different stages of development. So if we think about the protozoan, it's the cyst and the trophozoite, the metazoan, it's the ova and the adult. The fungi, it's a type of spore, right? And the vegetative structures, so the mycelia, it's either septate or non-septate or aseptate. And then it's genus and any other important facts that we talk about, right? And so there is a matrix for you to make it easy. It looks like this. Every organism is on there already. All you have to do is download that, study it, be ready, and then we'll take the practical in 2 weeks. Okay? Any questions? So everything's laid out for you already.
That
Yes?
includes everything. Metazoan and everything.
So we need to memorize this.
I didn't look through it all the way, like I would just uploaded it. And I thought it was all of this, like 9 pages were only fungi. I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm gonna die. That's how
So I
felt.
didn't want a certain Polish individual to get all grumpy at me again, so
I was about to
I
get
made stuff
grumpy.
ready for you.
You're welcome, guys.
I was scared for my life last week.
I got
She was-
back for you.
She was
Neither.
she was giving me the look. Anybody have questions?
I cried before I left practical. I was extremely stressed out. I was
Crying is
scared.
okay. All right, here we go.
Your feelings are valid, Taylor. That's what's on.
Here are the organisms that you're responsible for the fungi. There is Candida albicans. Saccharomyces cerevisiae is a yeast, but it's not distinguishable from any other yeast because there are no other morphological characteristics other than it buds. So in this case, I'm not gonna expect you to remember the name Saccharomyces cerevisiae. I just need you to know it's a yeast. Okay? Under the zygomycota, which are the less evolved organisms, you'll need to know Rhizopistolonifer. It produces sporangiospores, and its mycelia is aseptate or pseudocytic. And then the ascomycota, which are the most important group. I've selected 4 organisms to be representative for the group. And so that is Penicillium notatum, Aspergillus niger, Microsporum canis, and then my favorite, Coccidioides immitis. Okay? And so let's take a look at these so that I can show you how you can tell them apart very quickly. Okay? First of all, we look at yeast. Can you appreciate, now I've color-coded these things, right? So can you appreciate that the budding is occurring right here? This is a wet mount, and here is a gram stain. You can see the budding here also. So these are just indication that they're yeast because yeast are one of the few organisms that produce buds. Okay? So if I show you this, I expect you to be able to tell me it's a yeast. And if I say, what is this process called right here, Sam, you'd say what?
Buddy.
Budding. So it's that easy. There's not much I can do with this, right? Any questions? This is represented by Saccharomyces cerevisiae. But Saccharomyces cerevisiae represents all yeast because all yeast look exactly alike. You cannot tell them morphologically. In order to tell them who they are or what they are, you would have to do biochemical tests, much like we are doing for the bacteria with your unknowns. Okay? Good?
Mm-hmm.
But now we move to Candida albicans. Candida albicans is very easily distinguished because it not only buds, but it produces pseudohyphae. So you can see the yellow arrow is producing to the budding yeast, but the blue arrow is pointing to the pseudohyphae. If you see pseudohyphae and budding yeast, it is Candida albicans.
You see
Okay.
both in the same organism.
What's that?
Maybe, I'm talking,
Okay.
sorry.
Good? So, Sarah, this is fun. You can take pictures if you want, but it's on Blackboard for you. You can take pictures. I'm just saying, it's on Blackboard for you. Yes?
In the lower picture are the buds, the pink ones, and then the hyphae are
The lower picture, there are
Or is it the black ones or the buds?
On the top?
On the top picture, they're more easily discernible. On this picture right here, most of this is hyphal elements, right? There are some buds, but they're really hard to distinguish, right?
Tiny little black ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would never show you this when I show you something like that. Okay? But I want you to know,
Never.
never. Eric, have I ever done something I said I never would do?
Can't recall any specific.
Oh, yeah, because it never happened, right? Yeah. Questions? Now okay, so here are the infections that are caused by Candida albicans. You can see thrush, right, the top two, right? Usually it's a soft palate. Here it's growing on the tongue. But then also you can have a vaginitis, right? And so the bottom image is of vaginitis. Okay? Gross? What
Oh.
part?
All of it.
Like your grandparents would wash their dentures.
Oh my god.
We're
That is
moving
the
now
number
to the
one
zygomycota.
barrier.
The class is zygomycota, the organism is Rhizopistolonifer. And so if you look at this, you can see that it produces this long structure. This long structure is called the sporangiophore. This is known as the sporangium. It's the vesicle by which these spores are inside of, right? So this is a less evolved organisms. The spores are inside a vesicle. Yes, you remember that? But the giveaway is that there is no divisions within the mycelia. And at the very bottom of the sporangiophore are these root-like structures that we call rhizoids. That is the diagnostic characteristic for this organism. Those rhizoids, even though they look like roots, are not vascular. They are merely for attachment. This is how the organism attaches to substrate. Okay?
And that's this is the only one they're gonna be found on?
What's that?
That's, the rhizoids in this practical are only gonna be found on this particular. You know what I'm trying to say? I don't know what
Yes.
I'm stroking
The-
out.
So here's how you would say that. The rhizoids are diagnostic for Rhizopistolonifer.
So say it again?
The rhizoids are diagnostic for Rhizopistolonifer. They identify it as rhizopus.
It's in the name.
Yeah, correct. It's so easy. I don't know why people have such problem with microbiology. It's such an easy science.
Yeah.
Well, now.
But now,
We'll say
So
okay.
I'm just saying.
We'll say okay and just move on.
Okay.
If you see, when you first came into class, you knew everyone's name by the second day because you had the ability to remember names very, very well. And so it makes sense that you would like this because everything has a name.
No, Tay, you know what? The reason I know everybody's name is because because she was doing something over here.
My last name is Taylor.
I know.
so
Samantha.
I'll give you a half a point.
The reason I know everybody's name, barring that little faux pas, is that I believe everybody's really important, so I try to know everybody.
Okay, so you
And
know
I
the
will
same
re-
way about bacteria.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know the bacteria really well also, right? I know them by smell and by texture. I can look at a plate and tell you what they are.
We can just rub it.
Oh, the ones that we use here, I mean, I don't know every single one of them. It's just when you love something, it's easy to know. Right? Questions? Let's move on to the ascomycota. Here's Penicillium notatum. Here's how you remember it. To me, again, you can see the septations, right? So is this mycelia aseptate, septate, or cenocytic?
Say it again?
Septate.
Yes. The answer is yes, Clarissa. Is this organism septate, aseptate, or cenocytic?
Septate.
Septate. What's the difference between a cenocytic and aseptate?
If one has,
No difference.
Wait.
You're talking really fast.
Aseptate and cenocytic are the same.
oh, those are the same. I thought you said septate and aseptate.
Just try, so I'm making sure, because some people think I'm tricky. I'm not tricky. There's separations. Can you see the separations? There's separations in all the seeds. Okay, here's how you know it. Penicillium, its actual columella, its actual conidium, its head, looks like a hand. You see it?
So it can notate.
You see the hand? Right, there's a hand.
Mhm.
There's a hand, there's a hand. This is not the hand of the queen. This is not like Games of Thrones, right? Because I know that's where y'all going. But you can see these are kind of the metatarsals of the hand. Yes? We call those things phyalites. The phyalites give rise to the conidiospores. Yep. Good. So here you have the mycelia. The mycelia are coming in its septate, gives rise to phyalites, and the phyalites give rise to the spores. But it looks like a hand. Some people says it looks like a brush or a broom. I'm gonna say it looks like a hand.
Mhm.
Yep. That's an easy way to remember it.
Okay, one more time, please.
It looks like a hand. Okay? Good?
So what, mycelia and then?
Mycelia gives rise to phyalites, and the phyalites give rise to the conidiospores. Looks like a hand. Good? Its cousin, which people confuse it with all the time, is aspergillus. But they look nothing alike.
Sounds like a peacock.
It does.
I would have never thought that, but okay. You're right, it kind of does look like a peacock. But here's the giveaway. The septate mycelia, which is hard to see here, you can see it here, but the septate mycelia gives rise to a columella. The columella gives rise to the phyalites, and then you have these long chains of conidiospores. But what is diagnostic for this is the foot cell. You see the foot cell? They all have a foot cell, and I will show you the organism with the foot cell. Okay? I will point at it and say, what is this? And then I'll say, what is the genus and species? Yeah.
So you said septate, and then it's the coniospore, and then it's the
So
vesicle.
the conidiophore gives rise to a columella. The columella give rise to the phyalites, and the phyalites give rise to the conidiospores. Okay? So another way, Amy, of saying columella is a vesicle. You remember the other one, the spores are inside a vesicle, here they're on the outside of the vesicle.
Mhm.
Okay? Anybody have any questions? So far so good? Yes.
Whenever we're being tested, will we be able to say, the abbreviation for the genus?
You mean
Like A?
Niger?
Uh-huh.
Yes. But I might, somebody in the morning class is trying to negotiate that they would not need to know species, just genera. And I'm thinking about that. Okay? Just aspergillus and not aspergillus niger.
I feel like with one comes the other, so it's kind of, you know what I mean? How like.
I gotta treat everybody the same way, so I'll come to a conclusion at some point. It might get a little more scary when we start talking about the protozoans.
Mhm.
Or more of them.
I was
Okay?
scared.
No. You're always scared, and then you do fine.
No, I already proved that.
Ready? Here we go. The next one is one of my favorite organisms. Oh, it's actually, this slide is comparing the two. So here you can see the penicillium, kind of the hand, right? And here is, there's a vesicle, the phyalites, the conidiospores. What is this called?
Foot
Ellie?
cell.
The foot cell. What was that, Clarissa?
Oh, kind of looks
Why are you
like,
dancing?
I'm just like,
you're trying to figure out a thing for
I
it.
already do.
You
but
take
no, that's
penicillin
all
with your
thinking.
hand, so it looks like fingers. And the asparaginus kind of looks like asparagus with a close, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
but
like the peacock.
do you wanna know?
Peacock.
I like the peacock.
Yeah.
So do you know how aspergillus gets its name?
Hmm.
So in a lot of religious denominations, there is this little club that the priest will put into holy water. And during the veneration of the cross during holy season, they will spritz the entire population with this little club. That little club is called an aspergillus. And that's where this gets its name from it.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. The pageantry of that is beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Prettiest fungus we've seen so far.
Questions, or you can basically say it's a peacock,
It's a
which is
peacock.
fine. Right, that is the
really
Valencia way of looking at life. All right, now, the easiest one of the entire group is Microsporum canis. So this particular mycelia, which is septate, gives rise to one terminal conidia. And that one terminal conidia looks like a big old leaf. Yes? This is the etiology for, or one of the etiologies for ringworm. Okay? Good? Never forget it, right? One big old leaf. And these are the infections it causes. So here is tinea corpus, this is ringworm of the body. And this is tinea capitis, ringworm of the head. Okay? Questions? You getting all this?
Oh my God, that baby is covered.
I know it. Kitty cat probably rolled all over me.
Oh, should I just get rid of my cats?
No.
I'm not opposed to it. My boyfriend died. He's not a cat person, but he snuggles the cats to sleep.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, they're gonna get in there with the baby,
They are.
and I'm gonna freak out.
No, you're not. Perfectly normal. Kitties like babies. They like to smell their breath.
The milk.
Questions? All right, last one. Coccidioides immitis. So Coccidioides immitis has two different stages. I've selected the oidic stage to represent it. So oidia is the disarticulation of the mycelia to form arthroconidia. What that means is that you have the mycelia, and the mycelia becomes thickened, and they break apart, they disarticulate, they break apart. And so these little pieces can go off and be carried by the wind. We can breathe them in, or they can land somewhere and start a new colony.
So the
Right?
pieces that almost look like a ladder are the ones you're talking about, the oval?
Yes. Those are, those are
The
the different,
dissertation.
what we call them arthrospores or arthroconidia. Okay? Good? So if you see these things, it's gonna be Coccidioides immitis. Causes valley fever. Yes? So here, again, if you look at this, these are lungs that are heavily infiltrated. The lungs, when they are healthy, they show up on a radiograph as a very dark area. Here you can see all the infiltration, right? So this person's lungs are heavily infiltrated with an infectious agent. In this case, it's Coccidioides valley fever. Okay? And then remember that the fungi will infect places of the body where there's a lot of oxygen. So the skin is also another target. And so here you have coccidioides growing on the body itself. Okay? Any questions? So, that is the fungi.